Talk to him.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Whether the winters were left in the cold.
Move into the question of the day, man. Let's move into it. Oh, that's the one from yesterday. Let me update the question of the day for y'all right quick, man. 333 if y'all still with me. Joe Jet, you quiet today, dog. I see you here with me, but you quiet today, dog. What's going on with you, my boy? So the question of the day is going to tie into the code language that I did earlier. And it's just it's really just inspired by a few different conversations I had in my DM and in my and in my comments on different videos and stuff like that, because I always tell y'all to comment whether y'all agree or disagree so that we can have a conversation, because we got to crack these codes. I really be meaning that. I'm not here to argue. We could exchange dialogue and go back and forth without it escalating. You know what I mean? But the question of the day is, how do you know if a person is objective or biased? Right? And this is inspired by a few different interactions that I've had over the last few days with the content. But how do you know if a person is objective or biased? He said 333. He said, yeah, age gap is needed, or that woman likely isn't serious. She wants a boss. She wants to boss a guy her age around. I think Elijah Muhammad said half the guy's age plus 7 years. Okay. I heard that theory before too. Half your age plus 7 years should be like the range that you would date type shit. Is that how that formula is done? He said 333. Yes, yeah, there go my boy Joe. But yeah, let's get into the question of the day. How do you know if a person is objective or biased? So I had a few different interactions where in the midst of exchanging differences of opinions and perspectives and exchanging subjectivity mixed with some objectivity in these conversations and these interactions, there was things that were said that indicated to me that almost like the who hurt you question, essentially, right? Like if you saying something that's essential, and that comes from women, that's one of the original gaslight phrases. If gaslighting was created by a woman, for sure. But the who hurt you type energy, like, okay, I don't agree with what you're saying. I don't like, either I know it's true and I don't like that it's true, so I'm gonna disagree with it, or I don't want to accept it as true, or I simply am operating in the delusion. One of the three, right? But nevertheless, because I feel how I feel about what you're saying, instead of dealing with what you're saying and addressing what you're saying or having dialogue about and diving deeper into what you're saying, I'm a diminish what you're saying all the way down to you just emotional. You just biased. What you're saying has no validity. You just coming from a hurt place. See, that's when a potential amazing conversation that can be educational to all parties involved gets turned in, because then at that point, when somebody diminishes your argument or your point all the way down to you just emotional, because that's what who hurt you is. You just emotional. You're biased because your feelings hurt. That's what that is. So you have a decision to make as a man. If you're not that mature or if you're not that far along, you can get defensive. Right? And that's the same as the conversation going left. So nothing's getting accomplished there. Or you can rise above that and continue to just have the dialogue. But I honestly look at who hurt you as an ad hominem attack. Honestly. I think that's an ad hominem attack. For real. It's an attempt to bring you out of making your amazing points, because you when a motherfucker hit you with the who hurt you type energy, they don't have to even say the phrase. There's different ways to present that energy. When they hit you with that type of energy, that's them trying to get out of the fight. You making too many good points. They trying to get out of the fight. They'd rather turn this into an emotional thing where you on the defensive and you no longer finishing stepping on their neck with your perfectly articulated argument. Joe Jet said, yeah, so you won't also be like Shannon Sharp being fitty with a 19-year-old. He needs someone more seasoned, around 30 plus. Yeah, like the older you get, young to you is older. So if you 55, like a young lady to you is 30, 32. You still can have you a 33, 34. She's a bit more of a grown up, and she's still a young lady to you. You still got hella experience on her. You still could teach her shit. You know what I mean? Joe Jet also. Oh no, Deacon. What up, Deek? What up, dog? He comes straight in the door with a paragraph 333 to Deacon Chris. He said, I don't think that you can know, because if you're biased, you wouldn't necessarily know. You can only assume you're objective by the amount of discomfort you're willing to endure during conversation. I love that. I think being able to endure discomfort is a true testament of whether or not you're an objective or a biased person. If you're okay, because like yesterday, for example, we were talking about the you versus y'all in the code language conversation, right? And I said, I used to be guilty of being a heavy you person. Somebody could be, this is the exact example I gave. I said, two people could be talking, they could be talking about two people playing basketball, two different people playing basketball against each other. And then I just be like, should I buzz both their ass? And this shit ain't got nothing to do with me, but I just put me in it, right? That's the same. But now the more evolved version of me, that wouldn't happen. I would keep the conversation where it's at. It don't have nothing to do with me. Why am I bringing me up? We talking about them too. You know what I mean? So it's just like you talked about yesterday, maturation. Most people's growth is stunted, in my opinion. I can't find evidence otherwise. I can't find evidence that says the majority of Americans have matured past high school. I can't find evidence of that. What I can do is go on any social media platform and see people all the way up into their 60s acting like damn fools for some clicks. I can find that all day long. So like, you never gonna see me taking a side to make an argument that I can't substantiate. I just gonna take this side and make this argument because of my feelings, but I can't substantiate it. I don't have a fucking leg to stand on. You know what I mean? Joe Jet says, I would say objective is what's the bottom line, and subjective is the details needed to move towards the objective, which isn't necessarily one way to do so. Okay. I see that. I would say objective is what's the bottom line, and subjective is the details needed to move towards the objective, which isn't necessarily one way to do so. Yeah, because I think, you know, I definitely feel like it could work that way, because if you look at things objectively and then you look at it subjectively, which means that you're taking your feelings and your biases into consideration, then I think you're getting somewhere, right? Okay, I see this for what it is, but I feel like this about it. How do I get to the mesh point where the reality and how I feel about it are both in a good place? You feel me? So, but as far as the question of the day, how do you know if a person is objective or biased? Honestly, I feel like you know by asking them to substantiate their argument. Just simply asking them to substantiate, okay, you believe most black women go for the same types of dudes. It's going for a small population of dudes. I've had women look me in my face and tell me they don't feel like that's true. And then if I say, well, you're wrong, they tell me, well, you can't tell me my opinion is wrong. Well, yeah, I can. There's data to show that how you feel is inaccurate. So that's objectivity, right? I might want to feel like you. I want to feel like it ain't true. I want to feel like the black family ain't going extinct, but it's objectively inaccurate. You see what I'm saying? We look at the numbers. Black women have 1 million more children, a little over 1 million more children than black men. That means y'all sharing dudes. It ain't a 1-for-1. Y'all poly. That's what's going on out here. It's objectively true. And that's what we on for today. Objective versus subjective. That's kind of where I'm at with it. That's the inspiration for today's live, is just breaking down the difference between the two. It doesn't offend me when like oftentimes it's women. It doesn't offend me when women like just be like, oh, well, it comes off like this or that or this or that, because to be honest with you, it's to be expected. I'd be shocked if the response is different. I actually would be turned on. If I'm talking to a woman that understands my rhetoric and actually finds it to be objectively true and agreeable, she's emotional, but knows how and when to operate inside of her logic, that's wifey. She gonna get a date out of me, a plate out of me. We gonna sit and eat because we need to speak. Yeah, we got a shot. We got a shot, baby. You know what I'm saying? But y'all don't. So that's all y'all don't really think there's any. Y'all don't think there's a way to tell outside of what I just. Oh, Deacon said. Hold on, what you say, bro? But their substantiation will come from a biased place, just like the answers that you're looking for when they start their substantiation. We're all biased because we come from the same culture. Yeah, I mean, we can all possess biases, but that doesn't prohibit you from being able to speak objectively. I'm sure I have plenty of biases, but when it's time to talk about reality, I just only want to talk about reality. Biases come in when you start talking about your feelings. Would you agree or disagree to that, Deacon? Biases come into play when you start considering your feelings before you talk. I don't necessarily care about the emotional aspect. When it's time to talk about reality, I'm more concerned about the information that's being discussed. Especially if we having a resolution-based conversation where we trying to get to, some progress or get to an end goal or establish what a mission is. I'm gonna need something to go off of, something with some legs. It can't just be emotional. That's not really going benefit. It's not going to benefit anybody. That isn't going to benefit anybody. But I'm following what you're saying, though. I'm following what you're saying. Yeah, we might actually be able to keep live at an hour today. Y'all got in a little late today. I know y'all weren't expecting me to go live this late. I had physical therapy today. I had to come home and crash. That pain getting real. That physical therapy is getting intense, but we making progress. Almost back on my feet, y'all. Almost back on my feet. Deacon, throw me a question. Joe, throw me a question. Whoever just fell in, 333. It's all love. We here. We talk. Question of the day is, how do you know if a person is being objective or biased? How do you identify it? My answer to the question of the day was by asking them to substantiate their take. If they can come with fact-based information behind their take, it goes from being just an opinion to more of a theory, if not just a pure blown proven fact. To be honest with you, when you can substantiate it with data and statistics that can be proven. So, it's just like when we discuss men having when we discuss men having fear of marriage, and then you look at the divorce rate and see that well over 70% of divorces are filed by the woman. And then you look at the divorce court results in regards to who gets the short end of the stick in most divorces. As a man, you have every objective right to be a bit apprehensive. Yes, you can go spiritual with it and say, I'm manifesting greater for myself. I'm speaking a positive marriage experience into my life. I'm commanding the universe to send me something that's going to be exponentially better or different from what the majority has become. You can do all of those things. You can. And if you do them right and you vet properly and you take your time, you probably will have a better chance of ending up in a great spot than most people who don't understand how to do that. However, when we sit on these platforms and have conversations about what it is and how it's going for the majority, that's when it's time to be objective about what most people are doing. Now, what they could be doing to get greater results, we can discuss that. But if you give advice to 1,000 people, what, 5 or 10 of them gonna take it? Everybody in the room will listen to you. Look at how many people go to How to Be a Millionaire seminars and how many of them turn into millionaires versus the attendance to who actually went and applied the information. It's always fractional. It's always fractional. So the good, the great, the pure, the innocent have forever been the minority. That's what it is. It's nature's design. We got a question. Deacon said, hold on. Before I read your question, hold on. Deacon said, what is true objectivity? And how do we define it? Oh, yeah, that's easy work. True objectivity, objective, not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts. Not influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts. That's the definition of it. That's what true objectivity is. Purely. That's what it is. That's how we define it. And subjectivity is its badass cousin, the complete opposite, based on or influenced by personal feelings, tastes, or opinions. So we're having these pods. I can't remember whether it was Souls of Thought or whether it was you, Deacon, that said something profound yesterday when you said we're inadvertently having conversations with people who have the inability to be objective. Most people are subjective, which is the cause for the communication issues that we have by and large. If you can't remove your feelings and talk about what something actually is, you'll never correct it. First thing they make you do when you go to a Alcoholics Anonymous, or a detoxification, is to confess out loud that you're addicted. It's the first thing you got to do. Because if you don't admit it, you don't think you got to fix nothing. You don't think nothing wrong. It just is what it is. Joe Jett said, so there's a lot of opinions floating around and less objectivity. Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all be seeing my reaction videos. I did reaction videos on 8 at the Table. The short hair chick, I think her name is what's her name? I think it started with an A. The short hair chick. She be making up shit all the time. Mid debate, she'd just make a stat up. But see, the thing is, most women, there's an overwhelming majority of men becoming stay-at-home dads. Just make the shit up. Just make some shit up mid conversation. That shit ain't nowhere near true. Y'all forgot, like, a lot of shit is provable. This shit ain't, we don't have to guess. We don't have to go off the small web of people we know. This shit proved. We got real numbers to show how people are moving. In case y'all haven't noticed yet, let me just say it plainly. Really, my channel is really a sociology channel. This is a sociology channel. Entertainment too, but sociology. That's really what we're here discussing. So, like, you can look at the metrics and the numbers and see how do you think the shepherds herd the flock? The powers that be that push the propaganda, the powers that be that control the media, how do you think they shepherd the flock? By understanding the ebbs and flows of what the majority are doing. They're not worried about the 5%. They're not worried about the 15%. They're worried about the 85%. As long as we got the majority under control, them few little voices that know better ain't going to be able to do shit. Let me know when I stop making sense. I'll be happy to have a conversation. Joe Jett said bullseye. So the inability to be objective is why there will never be an uprising in America. The inability to be objective is why you won't see black people come together and stop being violent only with each other. There's a reason for that. When I say that, people be like, oh, that's a misconception. No, it's not. We have the numbers. And we have the experience. I'm really from the trenches. I seen it firsthand. I seen a black dude be completely polite with a police officer pulling up, asking questions, and be completely unreasonable with a nigga who stepped on his shoe. Seen it. My own eyes. We only tough with each other. We only violent with each other. Our oppressors, we get straight on my mama. The oppressor come around, we tighten right up. In Jesus' name. Pun intended. Deacon Chris, where does subjectivity end and where does objectivity begin? Because we can use the same data and get different answers. Give me an example, Deacon. Let's hash it out. Because I believe subjectivity ends and objectivity begins when it becomes fact-based. When you start being able to prove what you're talking about, you've crossed over into objectivity. When your biggest basis for your argument is how you feel, you're still being subjective. So whenever somebody start with, I feel like, that's subjectivity. When somebody say, well, the statistics show, that's objectivity. That would be my clear way to delineate between the two. Deacon said, I honestly don't think that humans can really be totally objective because we have too many different experiences within the data set. We are way more complicated than we even understand. Yeah, I think that's very true too. Let me because while my audience is still small and growing, before we get to the days where these lives got 200, 300 people in it, while it's still just a few of us, let me qualify a lot of why I understand this shit on such a high level. I was a double major in college, so communications and psychology. And so sociology, human studies, psychology, and the ability to speak publicly, which is why you guys will notice, unless I get real comfortable and start talking in my colloquialistic form, when I'm being proper and articulate, you guys will notice I'll pause instead of saying and all of that, because I've been trained on how to speak properly publicly. It's just that when I'm comfortable, I'm just gonna talk my slang. I'm from the inner city of Chicago, so you either gonna hear that or you gonna hear the professional side, which I'll call it code switching. I just think I got versatility to my personality. But Deacon said, but saying that you don't think people could be totally objective, I don't know, bro. I think it's possible as long as you stand fact-based. Deacon said we could look at the data on single parent homes and say that single mothers are worse than single dads, but there are way more mothers than fathers, so the data can't be properly analyzed. Yeah, I get what you're saying. So the results of single fathers is a smaller sample size than the results of single mothers. So we have a larger pool to extract data from on the mother side. But when it comes to single fathers, because there's less of them, but you can still look at it from a percentage base, bro. So if you say there's 1,000 single mothers and only 200 single fathers, you can still look at the results of the children by percentage. Out of the 200, 98% of them stayed out of jail. 98% of them enrolled in college at minimum. 98% of them did this. Out of the 1,000, 900 and whatever of them ended up at least getting a slap on the wrist with some handcuffs. 90-something% of them at least, you know what I mean, had behavioral issues or went to alternative school or whatever the numbers. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical. This is not real analytics, but you get what I'm saying? So you can still measure it from a percentage base, because that's almost like saying you can't compare the homicide or crime rate of black people by and large to the rate of white people, because the population of them versus us in this country is so different. You still could look at it from a percentage base, even though we're 13% of the population. Of that population of people, how many of them is acting a fool? Of the total population of these people, how many of them is acting a fool? And you just look at it as percentage. And that's why you could say most single mothers get these returns on the children. Most single fathers get these returns on the children. And the fact that there's an overwhelming majority single mothers to single fathers speaks to the systemic unfairness that men have to deal with, which also, again, should be driving us to be more disciplined in our decision making. Because if you go get the wrong woman pregnant just because you wanted to get your jollies off, that she could make it hell for you out here. She really could make it hell for you. So you would think that more of the men who have the pick of the litter, the over 6 foot dudes that look like they got a couple dollars or actually got a couple dollars, and whatever the case may be, those men who have the pick of the litter, what are you doing with your pick of the litter? A lot of these dudes is being Future and Nick Cannon with their pick of the litter. But then the problem is, when you give women these microphones, they go and act like it's the overwhelming majority of us, when it's just the overwhelming majority of the men that are in the pool that they like to pick from. I hope y'all are keeping up with me, man. I'm grateful to be building a sophisticated audience where I feel like I could really talk. So Deacon said, but still, it's not completely objective because the sample size is skewed. Can we really be sure to say that it's true even without an adequate sample size? I think we have an adequate sample size in regards to the example that you gave, but for an example where the sample size is inadequate, I do think it becomes hard to be objective, but only in that particular way. You know what I mean? It would have to be an individual case basis. Like, what are we talking about? Is objectivity, pure objectivity, possible in regards to this particular subject matter? Because in other ways, you can be purely objective. I think it comes, but I do think what you're saying situationally applies. Like in certain situations, it's going to be hard to be 100% objective, depending on what the subject matter is. But in other situations, it isn't. Right? When we start talking about stuff that we can literally count, who had more record sales, Michael Jackson or James Brown? We could be objective with that. And then somebody could come in and tell you they feel like James Brown was better than Michael Jackson, but they can't prove that the impact globally was better. We could prove that with the numbers for Michael, right? So I don't know. This is a great conversation though, and I'm glad that y'all don't always completely agree because it adds nuance, right? Deacon says, now I'm not disagreeing with your point. He said, now I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm just asking you to think about it objectively. For sure. For sure. That's what I need. Let's push the conversation. For sure. That's what I need. That's why we're here. We got to crack these codes, man. We got to crack these codes. But before I tap out of the live, because we push into the lives that went from an hour to an hour 30. That shout out to the chat for that. The lives that went from an hour to an hour 30 already, just in a couple short weeks of going live. We've already pushed up the time because everybody interacting. It's a beautiful thing. We can be objective with numbers because they're one-dimensional, but we're multi-dimensional beings, so it's way more complicated than we can really understand for real. I think in some situations you're 1,000,000% right. And in other situations, it could be completely quantified. I'm following you though. I don't disagree with you, but I do think we have to look at where that applies. Joe Jet said, definitely agree with you see it. It's the same. I told a group of people years ago. I told dude had all these women in your day, but look at the community. Now guys are not cleaning that up. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like hey, listen, we're gonna point it all out. You can't just put it off on all the women. I just think that as men, because we're in a situation where we can objectively prove that the majority of our sisters are attracted to a small populace of men, right? We can objectively prove it with the data and the numbers, right? That's what's going on out here. So with that understanding, we can look at those small percentage of men and say, hey, you guys are the chosen ones, for lack of a better term. Y'all need to be extra responsible, because if y'all crash out, this is what the society gonna look like. If y'all go making 4, 5, and 6 baby mamas a piece, even though it's only 3% of y'all, the whole society nationally is gonna look crazy for our ethnicity. It take 99% of men could be acting right. 1% of men crash out, and it send the whole society to shit. So it's important. The problem is we don't get a fair shake because the vast majority of women, like dealing with a small percentage of men, that is their subjective opinion of all of us. They don't have the data or the life experience to objectively understand your average black man is a good dude. He just ain't 6 feet on average. He's not rich on average, but he's a good dude. A good dude. In the workplace. I did this one time in the workplace. I told y'all I'm really a sociologist. Follow me. In the workplace, I did this one time. I had this chick that looked good come with me to go ask men this question. Reason why I had a chick that looked good, objectively looked good, right? If you ask all the men in the office, 90-something percentile gonna say they find her attractive, right? Reason why I took her with me to go ask men this question is because I know if men are ever incentivized to lie for the sake of perception, it's you do it when a baddie is around. Follow me. So I went and took her with me, and I went and asked all the men. I said, hey, real talk. First, I asked them, do you have a lady? All the men that said no, I proceeded because this question was for single men. I said, hey, bro, if you could get you a woman that truly respects you and honor you and do right by you, and you know in your heart that she's loyal to you, would you really be putting any effort in being like a cheater or cheating on her at any point in time? And would you ever cheat? I promise y'all 100% of the dudes said I wouldn't put, 100% of the men said I wouldn't put any effort into cheating. About 50% said that they may still cheat if the right thing fall in their lap. But that's just man shit. And they told this shit right in front of the good looking chick. This one that they, you know, everybody in the office trying to J down on and whatever. And they still were willing to be honest and make themselves look a bit less desirable by saying, I may still do it if something fall in my lap. But the vast majority of the men was like, I'm not on that though. Like I'll just go home. Most dudes want peace and satisfaction. If they can acquire that, they won't necessarily be scumbags. The problem is the small percentage of men that are scumbags are the most attractive to a large percentage of women. And thus, though they're endowed, we have the results we got. Deacon said, no way. I found that, and that's why I'm married. Yeah. Yep. See? Another brother just hearing the question live. He like, yep. If I can get what I'm looking for, I'm cooling. This concept of like you can be this ultimate perfectly good woman and dudes is still gonna be dirt buckets. I always respond with them the dudes you like. Most dudes are not scumbags. Most dudes are not serial cheaters. Most dudes don't even have the energy and effort when they truly trying to take care of one woman. They don't even really have the energy and effort and time or a mission or mind to be out here putting effort into holding down a side piece. That's most dudes. But again, most dudes don't come in the packaging y'all like, the rapper y'all like. And so we end up with a million more black baby mamas than fathers. These are the results. But I'm going to keep my vest on because I know y'all like to shoot the messenger. You feel me? But we got to crack the codes. And we can't do it by lying to each other. You feel me? But any more questions, man, or we going to tap out of the live? It's been an hour 20. It's good money. Good money. Yes, Lord. Great job. Great talking to y'all today, chat. Great talking to y'all. I ain't really know if anybody was going to be in on the evening live like that, but it seemed like the participation up. Y'all boys off work, huh? No more questions. Thank you for your time in the conversation. Oh, for sure, Deacon. We right back at it tomorrow, man. We coming with a whole nother show, whole nother reaction video, whole nother question of the day, and a brand new code language. Y'all already know what it is. But, man, if y'all don't do nothing else, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the channel, turn on the notifications. And if you don't do anything else, man, stick to the codes. We got another classic.
Classic codes, I ain't taking it slow. Forgive me, Lord, I woke up in that mode. Weathered the winters when left in the cold. Hardened my heart.